Hey everyone, it's Khan, and the Eastern Conference is quite the puzzling situation right now. There's a lot happening this season in the East, spanning from the top, where a new powerhouse has emerged, down to the bottom where the Sixers are struggling to get players on the court. In between, teams that were slumping have found their rhythm again, while those who were performing well are currently in a slump. Along with trade rumors swirling around, it's been an unusual season. There's so much to discuss regarding nearly every team out there, so I'd like to go through the East and touch on all the intertwining narratives between these squads at the moment. Naturally, I'll start at the top with the Cleveland Cavaliers, who have surprised me. I expected them to be decent this season, guessing they would land around a 4 or 5 seed, but I never anticipated they'd be 33-4. If you had told me that before the season, I would have thought you were completely out of your mind, as I didn't think this Cavs team could maintain a 73-win pace. Yet, here we are, they're simply dominant, on a 12-game winning streak with one of the best defenses statistically in history, solid defensively, and they have a case for 4 All-Stars, with Donovan Mitchell not even having a season up to his usual standards. He's rising to the occasion when they require him, and the reason they don't rely on him frequently is that Darius Garland has returned to form, proving himself to be one of the top guards in the NBA this season. Evan Mobley is making strides, and Jared Allen is delivering the usual performances we anticipate, continuing from last year where he arguably had his best season, which went under the radar due to numerous injuries. Kenny Atkinson has them performing strongly, and the role players are exceptional. The Cavs are simply a powerhouse. At the start of the season, I had doubts whether anyone could rival Boston at the top of the standings, but here they are, decisively asserting themselves. They currently hold a 6.5-game lead over the Celtics for the top seed, and I would be surprised if they don't secure that position. There's a genuine possibility they could achieve 70 wins, which is incredible and extremely rare historically. This Cavs team wasn't one I anticipated being that impressive. I expected them to be good but not historically significant. Throughout roughly the first half of the season, they've unquestionably been the most dominant team in the Eastern Conference, leading us to discuss the reigning champions, the Boston Celtics, who last year were remarkably strong as they propelled through. The playoffs arrived, and I spent the entire year discussing how strong they were. Ultimately, I was vindicated. Heading into the season, I anticipated they would be the representatives for the East in the NBA Finals. Currently, I'm torn between them and the Cavs as the likely contenders to face the Western winner, much like many of you seem to be. I tweeted to ask for your predictions on who would win the East, and the responses were nearly evenly divided between the Celtics and Cavs, along with a few other teams mentioned. I remember one of you even suggested the Hornets, which surprised me. It genuinely feels like it's between these two teams, yet the Celtics haven't been as impressive as last season. In their last 12 games, they're sitting at 6 wins and 6 losses, a record not typically associated with last year's team. I understand they've faced some injuries throughout the season, but even last year, it didn't matter who was absent. They consistently dominated opponents by 15 or more points on any given night. Whether Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, or KP played, they'd still likely win by over 20 points. This season, however, it hasn't worked out that way. During this less-than-ideal stretch, especially compared to their usual performance, they suffered a loss to the Magic, who played without either Fultz or Franz. They were defeated by the Sixers on Christmas and also lost to the Bulls, which is tough. Just last night, they lost to the Sacramento Kings by 17 points at home without De'Aaron Fox. Last year, the Celtics rarely lost at home, but this year they already have more home losses than all of last season. I'm not quite ready to express concern, but I'm not as confident in them as I was last year when I kept saying they would dominate the Eastern Conference. This is a historic dominant team, however. It hasn't seemed that way this season. A significant issue for them lately has been their execution in the fourth quarter. They've been among the worst defenses in the NBA during this stretch, particularly in those late-game moments they just collapse, and it feels like the deeper into the game they go, the less they understand what to do. This has been a recurring issue for the Celtics until last season when they finally addressed it. They seem to be reverting to some old habits. This season, scoring-wise, it hasn't been great for Jrue Holiday. KP began the season out of the lineup, but now that he's back, he is still adjusting. Jaylen Brown hasn't had his best offensive season either, which raises some slight concerns. Again, I'm not quite ready to say that. I'm not out on the Celtics or anything, but I really hope they can figure things out because I want to see them at their best against the Cavs, especially given how they've played this season in the Eastern Conference Finals. They haven't been the same Celtics we watched dominate the NBA last season so far. Meanwhile, the Knicks are currently the 3 seed, and last night I saw them play live at Madison Square Garden against, of course, my favorite team, the Thunder. They got destroyed. It was hardly competitive. The Thunder were up by about 27 at halftime, and much of the fourth quarter involved both teams' benches. That's been a recurring issue for the Knicks. They hold a 25-14 record and are just 2.5 games behind the Celtics for the 2 seed, so they're having an overall fantastic season. However, when matched against the top teams in the NBA like the Cavs, Celtics, and Thunder, they haven't delivered. They're 0-5 versus the best teams in either conference, losing those games with an approximate point differential of 86. They've been outmatched by the NBA's elite for the majority of the year, with the primary concern for the Knicks being their defense. For instance, last night against the Thunder, they allowed countless open looks. Isaiah Joe went out there and scored 30 points. There were definitely some challenging shots made, but he often found himself wide open since the Knicks were struggling with their rotations. They wouldn't have been able to prevent SJ from driving to the basket. In one instance, he practically strolled to the rim. Their defense isn't very strong, currently sitting around league average, and it appears that their movements are often sluggish. This sluggishness coincides with their inconsistent three-point shooting. Sometimes it's quite effective, but often it's quite poor. For example, last night they struggled to make any threes, and Mel Bridges couldn't buy a bucket, which resulted in loud boos from the Knicks fans regarding his performance. Despite a solid record, there are some worrying signs, especially considering the team's lack of depth. All of this is compounded by players logging excessive minutes, a common trend under Tom Thibodeau. For instance, Mel Bridges is nearing an average of 40 minutes per game, which raises concerns heading into the playoffs, especially against potential opponents that have had the luxury of resting players in the fourth quarters because they led by significant margins. The Knicks, however, are forced to rely on their key players due to a lack of depth. However, you might want to consider trying out a few other players to give some of the main guys a breather, because we saw last year during the playoffs against the Pacers how they essentially fell apart. I'm not claiming that every injury stemmed from Tibbs overplaying his starters, but there was significant wear and tear, which was evident as the season wore on. The players looked utterly spent by the end. I have concerns about their viability in several playoff series due to that aspect. So that's a bit of insight into the Knicks. They've been perplexing again, unable to defeat the stronger teams, but managing to overpower many weaker opponents, and I'm apprehensive about the implications of their minutes, the lack of depth, and their generally inconsistent defense all merging negatively in the playoffs. Speaking of puzzling teams, the Milwaukee Bucks, who won the NBA Cup, appeared strong coming off it and currently enjoy a 3-game win streak. However, since the NBA Cup, their performance has been quite erratic. Chris Middleton remains an enigma regarding his consistency as he recovers from consecutive ankle surgeries, while Giannis has been phenomenal. Dame is also having a solid season, and overall, they rank among the top 4 teams in their conference, so there's not much to gripe about. But they still don't seem like contenders to me. They don't seem like a team that can compete at all with Cleveland or Boston. The Knicks are intriguing depending on their performance, as they can be a very inconsistent team at times. I'm not quite sure what their strategy is. It feels like they need to make some sort of move, yet they lack the necessary assets. They're sort of trapped in the twilight zone of the Eastern Conference, where they have Giannis and Dame as 2 top players, so they could potentially pull off some upsets, but I'm uncertain how much I can rely on Doc Rivers and the overall depth of this team. Their defense has improved lately, but in a series against a top-tier team, I'm unsure how effective they'll be. They are a rather perplexing team. The Magic are currently a total mystery in the NBA. They hold a 22-18 record, even with both Paolo and Franz missing a significant amount of the season. Before Paolo's injury, he was showing all NBA potential, and last night he returned against the Bucks in a game that the Magic lost, but he played just 27 minutes and had 3 points, 4 assists, and 3 rebounds. If Paolo continues to play like he did prior to the injury, as he demonstrated last night, And if they can get Franz back alongside this improved defense, I believe the Magic could make a strong playoff run and potentially reach the Eastern Conference Finals if they get favorable matchup. I don't believe it's beyond the realm of possibility due to how well coached this team is, the strength of their defense, and how impressive their top stars appeared before suffering injuries. They resemble a sleeping giant capable of achieving some remarkable upsets if matched correctly. The Pacers seem to be back. Tyrese Haliburton has been performing exceptionally well recently, helping them climb the standings to just half a game away from securing a top 4 seed, especially after they looked nearly finished early on. Much of this resurgence is attributed to Haliburton returning to form, and Siakam has also been playing effectively. Despite facing injuries, this team is currently finding its stride, with a 5-game winning streak in progress. Yes, Indiana is finally coming together. This was a squad that felt poised for a leap this season before disappointing at the start. However, the anticipated breakthrough is now unfolding roughly halfway through the season. This raises the question of how they would perform in a potential playoff series against the Knicks. What would that look like, and could the Pacers pull off an upset? I don't think it's out of the question. This matchup could currently align as 6-3, with the Bucks facing the Magic, leading to an exciting scenario of Celtics versus Heat in the first round, which would be very entertaining. Due to the heater, there is an insane drama involving Jimmy Butler, as he's taking every possible indirect or even direct jab at Pat Riley that he can. This includes moments at his Big Face coffee shop, where he helps an employee and emphasizes the importance of complimenting workers, clearly a dig at Riley, who told Butler to be quiet following last year's defeat to the Celtics while he was on the bench. Butler appears eager to be traded and seems to be trying to maneuver his way to Phoenix, although I doubt Phoenix can make that happen. Consequently, we find ourselves at an impasse, while Bam Adebayo has inexplicably struggled this season. On the other hand, Tyler Herro is enjoying a career year amidst the chaos, and despite everything, Miami stands at 19-17, which is better than I anticipated given the turmoil. However, they are a complete mess currently, contributing to the overall disorder of this conference. The Pistons have significantly improved compared to last year, showcasing one of my favorite narratives. A specific video on him is coming soon, as he's performing at an all-star or possibly even all-NBA level this season, currently holding a record of 19-19. They unfortunately lost Jalen Ivey for what seems like it will be a while. He fractured, I can't remember if it was his tibia or fibula, something with his leg. When he returns, that will be significant. It also appears the Pistons may be looking to acquire players in this market, as rumors about a Brandon Ingram trade are surfacing, and I like this idea. They should aim for the playoffs and do everything possible to be a playoff team. If the season concluded today, they would have 2 opportunities in the play-in, being the 8th seed. If they could defeat a very troubled Miami Heat team, especially with Jimmy Butler suspended, they would make the NBA playoffs, which would be a huge achievement for Detroit. Last season, they had 14 wins. They've already achieved 19, and we're not even halfway through the season, demonstrating significant improvement. The Hawks are also looking much better this season. They're currently at 19-19. It hasn't been Trey's most efficient scoring year, but his playmaking has been exceptional. Jalen Johnson is having a true most improved player-worthy season, and Dyson Daniels is one of the most impressive steal-getters I've ever witnessed. They're playing great basketball, and then you have the Bulls, who are definitely going to make changes around this trade deadline. They're having a solid season. All things considered, 18 wins are pretty close to what I expected them to finish with overall, but I believe they will decline significantly as we approach the deadline and are likely to trade some players. Zach LaVine and possibly even Alonzo Ball for some genuine assets, as LaVine has significantly improved his trade value and is looking fantastic. Vuk is having a career-best season, so overall it's been a substantial victory for them this season. Then we have the Sixers, about whom I'm at a loss for words. NBA continues to struggle with injuries. Last night, they lost to the Pelicans, who are at the bottom of the Western Conference. The Pelicans entered the night with only 7 wins, and I understand that Joel Embiid was absent for this matchup, but still, you have Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and a decent group of role players, yet they lost to a team led by C. McCollum and DeJounte Murray. These aren't terrible players, but this is a game the Sixers should have won. They need to keep climbing the standings. All season long, I believe they would eventually secure a playoff spot, but most Eastern Conference teams are figuring things out by now. The Sixers are 4.5 games behind the 6th-seeded Pacers, who are really picking up momentum. I'm unsure if they can catch them, so they might end up as a play-in team again, leading to a potential matchup against the Celtics, who have consistently dismantled the Sixers in the playoffs and remain a powerhouse, or the Cleveland Cavaliers, who could win 7 games. It's been a disastrous season for the Sixers, and now you have Paul George stating that he's feeling uninspired attempting to operate the 5 for the Sixers amid the Embiid injury, leading to a sense of tension. This season has been chaotic, and the direction it takes is unclear. I keep thinking that if everyone could just get on the court, perhaps success is possible, but it might just be wishful thinking. Then we look at the tanking teams at the bottom, where the Nets unexpectedly have 13 wins, managing to stay competitive early in the season after trading some players. I anticipate they will trade Cam Johnson before the deadline and continue to slide down the standings. Jordi Fernandez is a fantastic coach, and I'm eager to see his future contributions. The Hornets have faced numerous injuries, however. LaMelo is on track to be an all-star starter and will be in contention for All-NBA. It's impressive that he's leading the Eastern Conference all-star voting for guards by a substantial margin, showcasing his popularity among fans. As they get him, Mark Williams and Brandon Miller back on the court, if they can recover Trey Mann from injury, this squad may not reach the play-in, but will be significantly more competitive than in the season's first half. The Raptors have executed a solid tank, with their players performing quite well. I've enjoyed much of what I've witnessed, but they continue to rack up losses consistently. It's precisely what they should be doing. The Wizards are currently at the bottom of the standings with a 6-30 record. They're aiming for Cooper Flagg, who just scored 40 points today for Duke, which is thrilling for Washington. Alexer is my top choice right now, or at least among those in the Rookie of the Year conversation, likely competing with Jayan Wells. If I had to choose someone now, the defense has been outstanding. He's genuinely a plus player at this stage. The offense has been improving as well, and I've liked a lot of what I've seen from Cabal. Jordan P. is back, and when they trade Kuzma and continue focusing on youth, if they can add Cooper Flagg like Bilal Coupe, then Alexer as a 3-man frontcourt trio will be incredibly tough defensively. Overall, I believe they're doing some solid things, and the Eastern Conference has been unexpectedly enjoyable, much more entertaining than I anticipated. I expected the Celtics to dominate the top seed, while teams like the Knicks, Bucks, Pacers, Magic, Cavs, and Sixers would fill in around them. If they could maintain good health, there's a chance of competing against that number 2 seed in the Eastern Conference and so forth, but I genuinely didn't foresee the Pistons performing this well. Naturally, I didn't anticipate the Cavs to be dominating at the moment. Additionally, I didn't expect all these intriguing narratives, particularly the Jimmy Butler trade saga. There's a lot to be thrilled about in the Eastern Conference. It's disorganized, yet it's an exhilarating and entertaining chaos that I'm pleased to witness. I'm glad it's not a conference dominated by just one team, as it seemed it might become. Instead, we're enjoying some really exciting developments right now, and I'm eager to see how this unfolds throughout the season. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite storyline in the East has been so far this season. If your favorite team is involved, how do you feel about the ongoing season? How has your experience been so far? Has it been good or bad? And has it met your expectations? Also, let me know who you think will win the Eastern Conference. Is it still Boston, or have the Cavaliers, with their recent performance, changed your mind? Do you still believe in teams like the Knicks, Bucks, or even the Magic potentially pulling off an upset and winning? I'd love to hear your opinions. For now, thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss future videos. I'll see you all later. Take care.